right. Welcome everyone to Flutter Stockholm. Glad to see so many faces here. I'm Victor. My day job, I work at Serverpod, which is a backend for Flutter. So if you want to hear more about that, or we're looking for developers and we got funding, so come talk with me afterwards. And I'm arranging this together with Alec, who is over there. You want to say a word or no?
I don't know. We're looking for people to help us out. I think that's in a later slide, though.
Yeah, it's coming up. So I'm going to leave the slide up after the meetup too. But if you haven't already, join our Slack. And we can talk in between meetups there. Okay, I see someone taking a photo. Cool. Maybe you want to say a word about?
Yeah, sure. So in order to promote diversity within our community, we have guaranteed seats for women. So basically, if you as a woman are on the waiting list before the event starts and it's already full, then you get automatically promoted on the event day. So this is something that you can tell about to your female colleagues as well, that there's always seats ready for you at the event.
All right. Yeah, and we would love some more help to arrange it. And maybe you put together the slides, so it might be safe to say a few words there.
Some more people to help us out. An event photographer, anyone interested in photography, somebody to help me out edit the videos afterwards, and a social media manager to tweet out photos and help us promote the events. So if you're interested, come talk to me or Victor.
Awesome. Yeah, and tonight, so first we have the introductions, that's where we are now. Then Ivan is going to give a talk about how he built a complete Flutter solution in his spare time. So that will be exciting. And Vibs is going to talk a little about his journey from doing other types of development into Flutter and how you can transition into Flutter. And he's also from B3, who is sponsoring this event. So thank you very much for being here. I'm sure he's going to say a few words about them, but they're also looking for Flutter developers and people who want to journey into Flutter. So you should also get in touch with them if you're looking for your next job. And after that, we have some more time to just mingle and talk. And with that, I am leaving the word to Ivan. We're very excited to hear about your talk.
All right, plug and play.
Hopefully. So plug and pray. Okay, so this is the. Yeah.
Let's see.
You need power too? Or
No, I think
this is the microphone.
I need
Should I
to hold
try
it.
to- Can I try to put it on your shirt
Alright,
here?
there you go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all good. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move your laptop just to the side. And yeah, if you read the event, you know that the topic for today is building a complete Flutter solution. All of this in your free time. So let's see how it goes. Flutter is that good. You don't need 8 hours a day. All right. Let's go. So just like a scope of what we're gonna be talking about, so you know kind of like what to expect. First, we're gonna express a lot of gratitude for having this moment today together. A little bit of introduction about who I am, what I do in life, and then kind of like go to the equation free time plus problem plus Flutter equals solution, and maybe break down that story a little bit. And then I'm gonna tell the origin story, like how I built this solution and what this solution is for. And we're gonna demo so you can actually see and touch, maybe not touch, but see, like what do we do. And if time allows, because I'm packing a full agenda here, we're gonna be having some discussion. If not, there are drinks in the kitchen and you can grab me and ask me about anything you like. All right, ready? Let's go. Gratitude. So I would like to say thank you all for taking the time to come here and celebrate Flutter together with me. Thank you for Betre for organizing this amazing event. We've been here twice already, or I have been here twice already on Flutter events. It's really good when you have support from the industry as well, and providing all this nice food and nice drinks and warm temperature inside, right? And yeah, and thank you, Victor and Adam. You're really my Flutter heroes, like keeping this thing alive inside Stockholm. It's really good when you have like-minded people coming together to discuss the things you like. It's all about community, right? So thank you again. Let's go. I'm Ivan, but some people know me as Medo. It's kind of like my nickname. Whatever works for you, call me like that. It doesn't really matter. If you hear someone calling me Medo, don't be surprised, right? I've been Android developer since Cupcake, and there is a quiz trivia for you. What version of Android is Cupcake?
2.3?
No. Ooh, 4? No takers? iOS developers 1.5. Yes, so I've been doing Android for 13 years, since 2009, I think. Yeah, and coming to Flutter, I think like, have I wasted 13 years doing Android? It doesn't matter. So I've been in this for quite some time. And recently I turned Flutter evangelist completely by mistake, I would say. I did something in React Native and some friends said like, why don't you try do it in Flutter? I did it in Flutter and I was like, oh, Flutter is the best. And now it's kind of like the only tool in my toolbox. So I kind of like, yeah, when you have Flutter, everything is a nail, how they call it. Other things as well. I do a bunch of other stuff, from running a company to having a family and pooping the dog in the forest. But I'm not going to bore you with these details because it's not really relevant to the topic today. If you want to connect, here's a fancy QR code. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can take a photo, or I'm gonna put this line again at the end so you don't have to do it. You don't feel pressure to connect with me, but do feel some pressure to connect with me. All right, all done, let's go. Back to the topic, building a complete Flutter solution in your free time. So we're gonna start with the requirements. Obviously, we're gonna break down the title a little bit. You do need free time, right? It makes sense. You need skills. So it's not like, oh, I want to do something and then like for me, building a chair probably would be very difficult. So some experience in building software, especially front-end software, especially mobile software, is required to make sense the presentation. Otherwise, you can do whatever you want with your time. You have to have a problem, right? If you don't have a problem, then you are not inclined to do anything. So you do need to have a problem, and you need to have a Flutter. And there will be an asterisk to this. Maybe you don't need Flutter, but that is going to be the discussion towards the end. All right, one by one, free time. So I'm going to put a list of bullet points, and I'm going to state with certain level of confidence that you don't have free time if you have a child or children.
A wife.
So, a wife, yeah. Yeah, so they grow up so fast, right? I think that the best thing you can do and the most hard and rewarding thing you can have for yourself is being a parent. So if you have a child that is maybe below age of 8, do spend time with them. Don't spend time alone in your room with Flutter, right? If you have a puppy or a kitten, also they grow up super fast. So it's kind of months you have in their puppy phase, right? So spend time with your puppy. Teach them some tricks. Teach them some basic mannerism. Where to poop, where to peep, how to bark at old people, the basic stuff, right? You don't need Flutter. If you have a problem with your relationship, we're coming topic to the wife, right? You don't have time for Flutter, and coding in general was my favorite escape. Every time I would need to have a hard conversation with my wife, I would be like, yeah, I need to code. It's kind of like an escape thing, right? Going in your man cave and doing some coding.
Now you are a pro.
So no, no, focus on your relationship, not your code. Problem with your health, if you have this back pain, right, by sitting 12 hours a day, and if you're already sitting 8 hours a day for your day job and you want to sit few more for your Flutter side project, no, do yoga.
Health app written in Flutter.
Yeah. But you can try the positions, right? Maybe you can be the model for the... So invest in your back problems, invest in your health, then you'll have free time in no time. Or if you have a native project or you're working on an x86 chipset, you will not have time. Because why? You will spend time waiting for the build to complete. That's the best about Flutter, you don't have to wait for it, right? All right, skills going forward. I would say 5+ years of experience is kind of needed. Not really, I mean, you can do it, but I would suggest. Why? Why? Because it's just easier to build code when you have some experience, especially if you have corporate experience or working with big teams, so you kind of like understand what is involved into building software, right? And also because of this, if you go to PubDev, right, your favorite homepage, and just like input state management, you will get 489 hits. 489 hits. Look at the hydrated block. What's even that? Like the things don't even make sense anymore. Everyone that has like a GitHub profile now makes its own state management package. And like what to choose from, right? Even if you go on Flutter official thing, there are like 12 or 15 different suggestions that you can use with different pros and cons. But I would say if you have that level of experience, you will not need this. Why? Because state management doesn't exist. No, I'm just kidding. It's not like flat earth. But because if you have this level of experience, if you understand software a little bit, you will understand that architecture is very simple and state management is just a nice way to implement your architecture, right? So it starts with something happens, an event is triggered, someone clicks a button, a notification is received, some event happens, user rotates their device, something happens, right? And then some business logic is triggered to kind of like handle this happening, this event, right? And then based on some business logic that kind of like makes sense in your specific case, a state is changed as an output of this, right? As an output of this algorithms and calculation of your business logic. And when this happens, when the state changes, the view is redrawn. That's it. It's that simple. And then how you provide your components or how you send your events to the business logic, or is your business logic is called a controller or view model or manager, doesn't really matter. Because as long as you fill this, or are you using, I don't know, freezed classes, or are you using normal classes or whatever, or do you mutate your state or you don't mutate your state and just copy it? Doesn't really matter, because as long as you follow this, it will not matter which state management solution will you use. Of course, it matters a little bit because sometimes some things are easier with one and not with the other. Some are more boilerplate than others. But the basic thing is, like, if you understand this, that you can write good code without any external dependencies, right? Because you have skills. All right, full disclosure. I have a confession to make. We use getx. Oh, I knew it. Like, people are like, I'm leaving this event. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Wait for it. We did switch. All right. Woo! We switched to Riverport it took us 2 days. 2 days. Why? Because we just replaced one boilerplate with another boilerplate. And when I was using getx, I was not using the magic part of it, right? So I didn't show a dialog without a build context or that type of stuff. So when you don't use the magic parts of the things, it's pretty much the same. Just the widgets need to inherit something else and then get a reference and stuff like that. We can have a whole discussion about this experience, like why we did it, and how we did it, but we'll save it for beers. I'll need more alcohol in me for this discussion. All right, going back to skills. Another thing that you kind of like need to know to provide a full Flutter solution in your free time, you need to understand the cost of the free things, because nothing is free in life. There's always a cost, and there's always something behind the magic that happens, right? Few examples. In our project, we're using something that is called Excel, and you can see here down there, the package was last updated 2 years ago, and then Dart suddenly supported null safety, so the guy kind of like, okay, let's do null safety. So we have this weird version 2.0.0 null safety /3 or something like that, right? But this is something that happens in Flutter a lot, especially now where the framework is kind of like new and things are not as yet mature. Some people have great ideas and they build them and they put them in public and people start using them and they go AWOL. I don't know, they get married or they change professions or they find God. But the result is they abandon their repos, right? So what do you do with this? In our case, nothing really happened because we were using very, very, very simple things about Excel. We just wanted to put some data in some columns and rows, and you can do it even without a library. But this happens, right? And when you import something as an external dependency, you know that these free things come at a cost. And sometimes this cost is complete repo abandonment. Another thing very, very famously is this. And I was trying to find some Medium article where people are complaining about their Firebase project bills, but this is like actually in the Firebase documentation. Like they have a separate page, Firebase, how to avoid surprise bills. Because if you don't know how to organize a NoSQL database, you might end up after your things scale with a very, very scary looking bill, right? And I guess Victor has an answer to this. We'll see. But yeah, so this type of thing, there's always a cost for the things that are free. Maybe they're free to start and then they will get paid, or maybe they will abandon. But just like knowing these things that are deeply in the software industry will really help you build a solution faster. All right? And then some Googling or lately TikToking. Yeah, have you tried to Google Flutter on TikTok? Google Flutter on TikTok, all right. Anyways, I don't know, newer generations, they don't read text. I read text, my son doesn't read text, he just uses video. But they're like, how do I say, like DevRel, right? Now it's like a huge profession. Like there are people, many young people who actually get paid to promote a library or to promote this. And it's kind of like one of the strategy of going to market. You kind of like need to get these influencers to get you going on stuff. But the good thing is about it is like there's everything to be found there, like all the solution to your problem. You can find it by Googling or TikToking. And I would like to highlight my friend here, Vandad. He's a developer from Stockholm. I think he's working in Telia, but he comes from a background that he feels that pirating software, right, has helped him a great deal, and he wants to give something back to the world now by providing just free, really high quality courses, and you can find on anything, like going full stack. Yeah, okay, another full disclosure before we go to the... I don't know Flutter much. I mean, I do know Flutter because I've built all of these things, but if you like have an interview with me and ask me about like what is the difference between stateful and... Okay, maybe I know that. But like basic interview questions, probably I will fail, right? Why? Because I know how to build code, and that's enough. Flutter is just a tool. I can Google the stuff and I can discover and see like, okay, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense. And this is the beauty when you have this level of experience. You don't really need to know the ins and outs of the framework, like academically, in order to use it. And Flutter is just so good in doing this. Like the tooling is so amazing. You rarely will find yourself stuck. This is why I love it. All right. Back to requirements. So we talked about free time, we talked about skills. Now we have a problem to solve and then discuss a little bit about Flutter, right? Okay, halfway through. Okay, problem. What kind of problem would you solve with Flutter? Well, something that you can relate to first. So something that is impacting you directly, or someone who you know or who you work with, right? Because then it feels a bit more personal, right? Then you can like, okay, maybe if I do this, it will be easier. It's just like Elon buying Twitter, right? He bought it to solve a problem for himself. So this is the line of thinking that you want to have, right? Elon with Twitter. Yes, all right. Something that can be automated or digitalized, right? Obviously, so I don't know. This is kind of like a self-explanatory point. And then something you don't even have to be original, right? You don't have to like invent the wheel or rediscover fire. It can be something existing, just that can be made better, like CerverPro, right? We have all these capabilities. I'm just gonna make them better and for free, or free, right? And yeah, and not every problem can and should be solved with code. And I'm kind of like pointing here subliminally to blockchain. So if your problem can be solved by some other means, you don't really have to spend time resolving something that has been already solved. Not a question, an example to kind of like illustrate all of this. So the BRF, the association that we use in our apartment building, they use like physical letters, like paper, in physical inboxes to communicate with us. And I don't know, like this is so 20th century to me. Like you have all this automation and some BRFs are like scheduling their I don't know, saunas digitally and stuff like that. And just like mind-blowing to me that we still, I need to go to another building and put it in the BRF mailbox to the query that I need to answer, like do we want electric chargers in our parking? Such a huge friction when it should be like yes or no button, right? All right, so you can solve this with Flutter, right? You can just develop an app that is kind of like, okay, we have this community, we can share documents, we can share this, we can share port codes or stuff like that, or report if someone breaks in, because now that's a big thing, and scamming. So you can do this with Flutter, but also you can do this with like a WhatsApp group, right? Yeah, you can just like bunch people together, and then maybe some neighbors like, well, I don't want this guy to have my phone number and stuff like that. So it's kind of like you need to approach these problems from multiple like points of view. Like, do I need Flutter, or it can be a WhatsApp group? Or you can do a Web 3.0 solution. I mean, why not? You can get easy money. VC funding, yeah. This is the thing that my BRF needs, VC funding. Yes, okay. So have in mind when you're building something in your free time, it's like, I feel so inspired. Medo convinced me to invest in crypto. I'm gonna do it right away. I don't need to solve my problem with my wife, right? So just like think about like, Flutter is just a tool in your toolbox. You have many tools in your toolbox. Is it the right one for the specific problem that you're solving? I got 99 problems, but Flutter ain't one. So in my case, I did this thing, right? So I was like, okay, wife check, kids check, dog check, experience check. Like, how do I solve this problem that I have? So we're gonna start from the beginning, and I'm gonna tell you the origin story, like how do we got here? And it's kind of like, imagine like this is like Star Wars theme like going. So back in March 2020, like 2.5 years ago, right? And this was like the beginning of global pandemic. This is like when we were like, it's happening in China, it's not gonna scale. And then Italy hit, and it was like, oh my God, it's here in Europe, like people are dying in hospitals. And then I told to my wife, this is kind of like a chat between me and my wife. It was like, oof, this COVID thing is gonna hit us pretty hard, right? Uncertain times are ahead. Maybe we need to kind of like, I don't know, adjust and go into doom scrolling and be worried about the future of the world. And then my wife, out of the blue, just says, we should quit our stable jobs and start our own company. Yeah, this is my reaction. But if you've ever been married, you know what happened next. Boom, Moonwise, we started our own company and quit our jobs. That's my wife in the back. Thank you, honey, so much for your support and daring me to jump the cliff. And we have a company that is called Moonwise. And what we're doing in Moonwise is we are consulting, but also we're dealing with things like transformational leadership. What does that mean? Open our website and see. Or we're doing with mindful office. So we are helping people run companies in a more humane manner. So kind of like the opposite of what's happening in Twitter now. Yes. So that's what we do. We're going to have the slide at the end, or maybe you'll have the whole presentation so you don't have to do it. But this is what we're doing. And also we are consulting, and we're building software, and we're building solution for other people, right? And Obviously, we're not from Sweden. We came here and it was kind of like, I don't know, like 4 years in until we decided to open our company. Like better to have an accountant, someone who kind of like knows the ins and outs of Skatteverket, right? We're not feeling comfortable like going with Bookio and doing my own accounting and stuff like that. So let's just find an accountant. We did, we kind of like asked around, found this guy. And during our introductory sessions, like, oh, what do you do? Oh, we do software and we do people transformation and stuff like that. And so it's like, oh, we have this like very old, very slow, very bloated and super expensive software that we use for bookkeeping. And it's so big, it has so many features, and it has been around for like 20 years, but I only use 10% of it. I just need these 3 things. Like, can you make me these like 3 things? Can you make something that is new, fast, simple, and cheap? And we're like, yeah, let's try. I know nothing about accounting. Like, I don't even know nothing about accounting. But he knows, and he's like, do this. And I'm like, okay, we can do this, right? And we did this. We provided a solution that is new, fast, simple, and cheap, right? And we did it with React Native. Oh, all right. A wild turn there. And this proved to be like so good for his specific use case that over the course of 1 year, he transitioned all his clients, and now he has like 200 plus clients to this, and I cannot stress this hard enough, hard-coded solution. So we did it like in 2 weeks, and it's like no abstraction whatsoever. It's just like hard-coded stuff. But it works so well, then he called us, and what happened next, like when you have hard-coded? Can we add this? Can we make this? Can we change this? And I was like, no. No way, Jose. Like, this was not built to be extendable in any way. But if this solves a problem for you, why don't we create a more generic solution for every accountant out there, not just in Sweden, everywhere in the world, because value-added tax works pretty much the same everywhere. It's not rocket science. And sell it for money. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. So we started thinking like, okay, how do we make it? What platform do you use? How do we organize it? Like, do we start another company? Do we do this? Do we do that? And then we kind of like worked out the details, the pricing, and we kind of like figured out who we're gonna sell this software to. So it's gonna be B2B solution. And we kind of like pictured this ideal customer of ours. And it looks a little bit like this. Someone who doesn't question what we do and just offers us money. We'll see if we're able to find them. And this is how Kinta came into being. So this is the solution I'm gonna demo right now, right? I think it's better to kind of like demo it, and maybe if you have any questions, we can answer them. But this is the solution we did with Flutter, and it's extendable. It's not still extended. We have a backlog of about 2 years if I only spend. Okay, so this is how much time I spent. In good days, maybe 10, 20 hours when you would like take over the entire weekend, a week, so 20 hours. At worst, 0. So I would say the total effort to kind of like build this entire thing on average in a year would fit about 2-3 hours of coding a day. So this is something everyone can afford, right? It's not that much. Also, it's not very complex software. But just kind of like having a problem and solving this problem in your free time, it brought back the joy in life that I have about coding and about this tool set. All right, let's go to demo. So you can see this, right? It's called Bookkeeping Made Easy, and all of this is like generated by AI. I mean, it's marketing, it doesn't mean anything, it's just words, right? This is not Flutter, this is Zero, and it was like the cheapest website builder. It's very basic, like you cannot do advanced stuff, but you can set up a web page in 30 minutes. It's just like so easy, and hook up your DNS servers and stuff like that. So if you go to kintaapp.com, kinta.com was unavailable. We tried to buy it back, but they were like, oh, you need to offer $15,000 for this domain. I was like, what? It's not worth it. It's a B2B solution. Nobody's gonna go and type it in. We're gonna do cold sales as a market strategy. All right. And then, I don't know, like generic stuff like improves productivity or increases happiness. Say, like, how do you know, right? But it's there on the internet, and Google can crawl it. Okay, so we have, there are like two apps that share 70% of the code base, I would say. The admin tool is much more complex because it has to do with some exporting stuff, skatteverket, something. But it's a web app, and eventually we're going to turn it into Mac and a desktop app or something. We just haven't gotten it to it yet. And you can, you'll see how it works. But basically is accountants can manage their clients. So all of their clients are put in a list, and then all of their submissions, all of the invoices and all of the receipts from their clients are there for them to see and process. And then you can export these SEF files and some Excel files and CSV files, different modes of exporting, customizable per client or per accountant, right? You can do this. And then we have this like beautiful apps for the customers of the accountants. So you can see like we are targeting either individual accountants or accountants that are like small accounting bureaus, 2, 3, 4 employees, right? Something like that. And then their clients, for example, us that we do our bookkeeping with, you have this like simple app that you have on your phone. We're gonna put it on the web and on the desktop as well soon, but now it's just on iOS and Android. And you can either take a PDF from your email and send it to your accountant, or just snap a photo of the receipt that you got for the company lunch, right? That's it. And also you have like this beautiful display. You're gonna see it if it works. The tool I'm installing right now. All right, and then some numbers, testimonials, AI generated, right? And a contact form. All right, so let's try to log in and see. So now we're entering Flutter. This is not Flutter yet. Okay, this is it. It's kind of very simple, kind of like email, social login, all of this provided with Firebase. So let's try to log in here and see how it goes. Boom, that's it, some random generated data specifically for this thingy. So you kind of have like a list of all your clients. It's kind of like an inbox type of view, right? And it's responsive or responsive-ish. I did sometimes, so when you like, I don't know, do this, hopefully, yeah, so you see it and stuff like that, and column resizing and stuff like that. Not too much, but because people are going to use it on desktop, right? And then you have these clients, you can add new, everything is in bottom sheet, so it's kind of like a single page type of thingy, and it's pretty easy to work with bottom sheets with Flutter and get like a result back, same with dialogue, same with stuff, but you can add as much client as you want with as much details as you want. All right, and then when your clients send an invoice or send a receipt, you will get like this type of thingy. Oh, hey, you have like unprocessed submissions. And if you open, you will see that like, okay, there is a website design. This is the fake invoice attached to this. You can open it in new tab. You can download it if you want, because we store everything in image. Even if it's like a PDF, we do a conversion to JPEG and just put it in this bucket. Why do we do this? Compression. Because we don't want to waste precious storage space that we have to pay to Firebase. Right? And then you can zoom in, you can play around. We will do this like interesting fancy tool that we had in the React Native app, where you like scroll over and then you get this like magnifier glass, so you can see a little bit details if it's like a sketchy quality invoice or receipt. But this is coming to it, right? And you can see that there are like a bunch of things. So it's either a cost or a revenue. So either you paid or you got paid, right? Some description, some metadata. Maybe in the future this is going to be pre-populated by some OCR or tech recognition and stuff like that. But for now, you either have to do it yourself, or if you don't do it yourself, your accountant is going to do it for you. And then some flags and stuff. This is the interesting thing. So this is kind of like the categories that skatteverket recognizes. So like 3011 is sales within Sweden with 25% tax. And then if you go to costs, there are like a bunch of other things, office rent and stuff like that. And if you're a company and if you want to have like a little customization around it, you can go to your profile, and here you can add, remove, change costs or revenues categories, because there's like a huge extensive list, but nobody really uses all of it. And if you want to have more or less, also you can customize this like per client, so different clients can, there's not a UI for this, but it's in the pipeline, right? Then you have this like roles type of thingy, so multiple people can use this software. If you're like a accounting bureau and you have 3, 4, 5 different persons working for you, you want to have or manage access for them, so you can, I don't know, add an admin that can do pretty much everything, or an editor that can do some of the things but not everything, and then viewer, which is pretty much like read-only access to this, so you cannot export and you cannot do other stuff, right? Going back to the dashboard, this is probably an interesting thingy. So you have this kind of like drop down, then you can filter by cost, by revenues, you can sort by dates, by numbers, and you can see like when I do this, it's like so instantly reflected behind it, because Flutter is just so great, right? And then this like fancy headers and stuff like that, depending on the category. Some have, some don't, but you can do all of this. And then process and export it. So when the accountant is done with your thingy, they can export it in. This is kind of like the killer feature, right? You can select some date range if you want to. And then you can export it in Excel, CVS, or SEF file, right? And this you can input in any other accounting software to kind of like generate end of year reports and this and that, and then calculate quarterly balance reports and all the other things. I have no idea what are they doing, but it works. All right, and yeah, that's another nice thing about that I love about Flutter is this, or so good, right? Sometimes I just stare at the monitor and press this button. It's like a zen to me. And then this thingy, like feedback, is just like so easy. You put a package, I forgot what it's called, but I like how it makes this nice animation, so people can attach screenshots or give you feedback, and you have like a direct feed of how people are utilizing your software, right? Pretty simple, nothing too scary. And Flutter is just the best for apps like this, right? For like displaying rows and columns of data and like attaching stuff. It's really easy. And it just like works, right? Let's attach an invoice, boom, you have it. And then we kind of like convert if you have multiple pages. So this is my invoice from Halon about my phone. And then you're gonna have this multiple pages, right? And you can see, I don't know why they're doing this. It's just like so much needless data. It just works out of the box. All right, let's try something crazy now. We're gonna sign out from here. That's the demo, and let's see if this works. Please do, please do, please do. Screen copy is a tool that should sometimes works. That should give you my, no, what does it say? Oh, it does work. Yeah, there's my phone, right? Look at this beautiful weather this weekend. Snow, yay, love it. Okay, so you can just go to Google Play or App Store and just like download Kinta. It's there, it's published, we passed the reviews. We are compliant, I guess. But yeah, it says when you download it, you cannot request your data to be deleted. And there was another interesting thing is, so app stores, they want to look at your app, but this is kind of like, you cannot use it. You can just use a demo because your accountant needs to grant you access. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense for you to use this on your own. Maybe if you want to keep, but I don't know, we'll see. Multiple ways we can branch out, right? And let's start it. It's just like goes like this. It's pretty simple, nothing too fancy. Social sign-in, let's show it. We have one with Apple as well, right? Because that's the policy. And again, same thing, right? You have this Kinta thingy, and later on we're gonna add a little bit of branding for your accountant. So we gotta have like a tab that says like, okay, this is your accountant. You can call him here. You can email him here for kind of like a fast access if you wanna connect with them. But now it's just like Kinta branded, again, this beautiful thingy, right? And you just have all of your invoices here, and you cannot do a lot of things here. It's kind of like default sorted by date, but you can see like, okay, so in October I got this much expense and this much. Maybe later on we're gonna add some statistics to it, so you can see like even like your quarterly reports, like how your company is doing per quarter or yearly report. We can have it here. Again, the same thing for filtering, and adding is like pretty simple. You can just pick any file. Here I have a bunch of brunch buffets menus, right? We're trying to go for a brunch this weekend. And it's kind of like, I don't know, the same thing, right? You can see these things, so you're like, okay, what was the VAT? So you don't remember all the numbers, right? And then you fill it up, you click save, and that's pretty much it. Your accountant sees it and process it, and you've done your bookkeeping, so you can focus on growing your business. And yeah, that was all I had to share for today. I'm gonna go back to the presentation maybe and just have this a little while longer. And if you have any questions, and if we have time, of course, I would be glad to take them. If not, kitchen. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah, so will this be open source since you have your wife still, and this has been developed and on your free time maybe?
Yeah. No.
No?
Completely, proprietary.
All right.
Strictly for money. No altruism involved.
All right.
So if you have questions, there's this mic.
Okay.
Speaking to it, you can just hold it in front of you.
How did you implement search?
Locally. So we just get a stream of data on from Firebase, and everything that is performed on top of this data is done locally. So searching, filtering, ordering, just like locally, to avoid maybe costs. I don't know if they can do it. It's not like the structured query language. And also like Dart is just so fast in list operations, so it's pretty instant. And also we have like pagination and type of stuff because we don't want to read too much, again, to save on build. But also you're maybe not interested in like, once the year is done, it's kind of like done, right? Accounting wise. So do you really care about what happened last year? So yeah, we don't work with more than, I don't know, 1,000-ish items at once.
And you mentioned Firebase cost earlier. How are your Firebase costs?
Well, now since we have very little clients, it's zero. Well, not zero. 3 kronor per month we pay. Because we have this, there are some automation, right? So these things, when you get like a notification that you have an unprocessed invoice, this is done by Node.js backend, which is kind of like when, like triggers. And having these instances running in the background costs a little bit of storage. So we are above the free storage limit because just we have these server instances. Yeah, that amounts to 3 kronor per month so far. But we're not concerned about this because I think Alet really explained this to me in one of these meetups before, because it's not like the amount of data is gonna grow exponentially as users go. So every user, we kind of have like pretty much the same cost. And then if we charge them a bit more than that, with every new client, we're gonna be in profit. It's not like interconnected graph where these users are talking to each other. They just like put stuff. It's a glorified file storage system.
Any challenges for the Flutter web regarding the Flutter mobile?
Yeah, so the thing I don't like is you need to have like a different calls for like the social sign-ins. You just cannot use the same code. It has to be like a separate call that the Flutter, I mean, again, it's in the library, but then I would have to have this like if web condition. One is that. The other thing was like, these things are stored in, but this is kind of like an initial setup, right? You cannot read URLs with files directly. You have to add that. I don't know, I'm not into web development. You need to add these like exceptions that you can read your files and display them directly. What else was? No, not really much. Most of the libraries that I'm using are really well in documenting these things. I think the hardest setup is iOS OS. Like, okay, go to the code. And yeah, there was another problem, but they kind of like solved it with a version bump. Was it a shader or some overlay or something? But some transformations that I was doing on the image was not working, and this was like a bug with the platform itself, with Flutter itself. But it was troubling me for 2 weeks, and then they bumped the version and they solved this issue, and suddenly, okay, now it works on the web as well. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, it was kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. And nothing that you get stuck with the Flutter web that keeps you from having that feature or something for your case?
No.
Okay.
So far, nothing.
So we could count on it.
Yeah. Well, for this simple use case, yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Martin has a question.
So Apple requires account deletion. How did this
Oh,
went
yeah.
through without it? Or do you have account deletion?
Account deletion?
Yes, you
Huh.
can't go through App Store review without having the ability to delete your account. Okay, that's impressive then.
That's impressive. But this was a big problem, right? You cannot use it. So you can download this app, but then if you sign in with your email, it's gonna say like, well, let's try to sign in with an email that hopefully is not. No. Now I remember the login. Can I just do this? Apple rejected me, and they said like there has to be a way for us to test your app. So I didn't want to like test I wanted to provide a way that maybe it's even not just like a hard-coded account that they can use to see the app, but maybe something like a demo user, right? So maybe someone who would download this and is like, this is kind of cool. Maybe I will share to my accountant. So I implemented this. Let's see which one. This one probably will not work. So you try to sign in and says like, okay, user does not exist. Contact your account for access, and then like link to a website. But this is the thing that got me through the App Store review. Google did not ask for this at all. And sign in as demo user. So pretty much, again, it's like a hard-coded, but you can kind of like go around and see the app. The only thing that you cannot do is kind of like when you, let's try, it's kind of read-only, right? So if you try to delete, it's gonna say like, ooh, it's a demo mode, you cannot add. And then you have an option to sign out or maybe contact your accountant or stuff like that. Again, there's so much things that we want to do, but I guess now it's kind of like this is an MVP and this is good enough. So we're not gonna spend too much time on this. We're gonna spend more time finding clients, like the friends of my accountant will try it out. Some friends that I have in Macedonia will also try this out, and maybe they will kind of like help us build the next feature. And it's like, okay, this is a must. Maybe we should focus on this, right? So like a community-driven development. Yeah, if this like scales, then we'll be hiring.
Awesome. So I think we'll leave it there, and yeah, I think we all think this was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we have our next speaker, Vibs from B3.
guys, welcome to B3 Mobile. Thank you. Yeah, hi, my name is Vibhakar and I'm a Flutter developer with B3 Consulting, B3 Mobile AB, and here I want to help. I see that we are some of the very seasoned developers here, but there are people who want to transition to Flutter and are looking for the ways or things that can help to board them in the Flutter, because I see the passion and the love for Flutter, and I want to share my story, how I went from other fields as a Flutter developer, and maybe this can be a help to you as well. So this is where it started, 2020, and I heard about the Flutter and I wanted to catch it. And this is me in London Flutter Developer Conference, Flutter Meetup, and there it all started. So let me take to the next one. So what I have been a salesperson. I have been also in pre-sales. I did pre-sales for a company in Nordia. We made it successful with other gaming companies also. And I have been a .NET developer in the past, and I have been a Scrum Master also in the past, and I have been a SDET, software development engineering test, and I have been a mobile automation engineer using Appium. And finally, I am what I really love at Flutter. Yeah, honestly, like this is when I found Flutter, I said, why haven't found it earlier? So why Flutter? This is very simple. Like, I don't want to invest too much money and time. Both are very crucial factors. But I want to target the people on Android and iOS. So that's why this is one thing which was really appealing to me. That's why Flutter. So how I approached it. So the people always try to find out, okay, I read something or do something, but I don't know. Flutter meetups, that's the first thing you're doing right. You are at the right place. And where we meet, make connections, try to understand. I met Edward in the first go, Victor in the first, it was 2020. So I met so many people. And Camilla, I also met her. She's the CEO at B3 Mobile. So I met her in the Flutter conference and I introduced myself. So this is one thing that can help you if you're really looking into Flutter development and be a Flutter engineer. These are the things that can really bump you up or take you up. Slack and Discord, be active there. There are so many people, so many problems every day. And don't aim for money in the first beginning, like team up. Yeah, I mean, let's keep it rolling first. Money will come eventually. So do the free contribution, find out the projects. You will find thousands of projects, and people are looking. For example, if you talk to Medo, he will look for free contribution just for you. Payment will come later. Join boot camps and start simple. Rome was not built in a day, as you know. When I start simple, I'll explain what I mean by that. So there are big companies, Android team, iOS team. Oh, I have Flutter. So never mind. That's the one beauty. I love it. This is, I want to target any platform. He was targeting web. You just saw it. And it's not possible with other things to have it such a speedy deployment and fast deployment and with so many functionalities. So when you are about to start, there are certain things. First thing I say, Flutter documentation is the best place to start with. If you go with Flutter documentation, they have everything. You don't actually need anything, but sometimes you find it boring and it doesn't go as you like. You can go for some online courses. These are the best ones. I did them, and I recommend you can also do. One is Resocoder. He is a very good developer himself, and he has some free courses. And then Robert, this Swedish guy, I think he's living in Gothenburg, and he has also a bootcamp. You can do that, and it starts from scratch. You need the basic knowledge of development. Like, he is not going to tell you some how to install some software and those things, but maybe some they do. And Andrea was one of the guide to me when I was going to Flutter boot camps in London. He was also a very helpful guy. So I totally recommend to do these things if you want to come into the Flutter development. Some of the books, Flutter Apprentice, one of the best book. I read it, I loved it. Whenever I got stuck, I'd look for the examples in the Flutter Apprentice. Google Flutter, it has live examples. So the problem is when you are doing something you don't know, you want the right code samples, you don't know if this code is correct, and if your code is not working, what other codes are doing. Here's a pro tip. If you want to spend some money or go with GitHub Copilot, it suggests 100 solutions to you for the same problem. Nothing, you don't even need me when you have Copilot, but that's one suggestion if you want to go for that. And yeah, real world Flutter by tutorial, there is another book, you can Google it. Another thing is the conferences. These conferences are happening every now and then. Flutter Vikings happens in Norway 2 times a year, and this is where you have many people coming in, presenters, what is happening in the Flutter. Many people are from Google also, or ex-Googlers, just like Victor. So you can try that. Flutter Festival, it happens also. It was, I think, last time in London. But these are the conferences you can go if your company affords that and looking for a transition from Android or React Native and Android. So these are the places where go. Google I/O is one of the best places. But yeah, you can look it live. It's free. You don't have to go to US for that. React Native. So anyway, what are the common challenges when you try to come to Flutter, or what are the things? Java has a lot of certifications. .NET has a lot of certifications. But Flutter, if you go out, there is one company called Udacity. It does some sort of certifications. It gives you an authenticity, but they don't have Flutter as a nano degree. But there's one certification available for Flutter. It has I think 100 or 65 questions. This demonstrates a good knowledge, and it says that yes, you qualified for this. One certification, you can go for this. There are the details you can look, and if you want to test yourself, this is a good place to start. And also there are not many internships available on LinkedIn or Monster, but this thehub.io, it has very Nordic focused job place, and it primarily looks for the free people like who want to work for free or free internships. This is a good place to begin with. Apart from that, the graduate lane is also provide a lot of internship in Sweden. And if you don't find anything, B3 Consulting is a good place to talk, and definitely we're gonna have a look and find out. And if the synergies match, the expectations match, definitely Kamila is the right person to talk here. Yeah. And another thing is not very so the people from Sweden, we have like Janssens and other Nacademic. They don't have any Flutter specific courses. They have React Native, Android, or native development. So that is one of the challenge. So how you can overcome? Build any simple app. It need not to have a super complicated using all the state management thing. Take very set state. That's it. Take it and publish it. This will tell you a lot of things. For example, you just mentioned that you can't publish an app until you don't have a delete functionality or in App Store. We also face this challenge. So publish an app, you will learn, eventually you will learn so many things on the way. And another thing is complete those courses I mentioned in the beginning. They provide the certificate. It will help you to come across and you can demonstrate yourself, oh, I did this. And it helped me, and it can help you, I think so. This is I felt 2 months back when our first app launched into the production for Android and iOS. This is how I was feeling. So tech stack, you don't have to have everything at one go. Start simple, start small. That will help you. So Dart fundamentals and OOP concepts, these are the mandatory. Like without this, it will be very difficult to crack an any interview anywhere apart from, I mean, if it's not Dart, it's any other language, you will face problems. But Flutter UI development is a good catch if you can design some UI, and there are bricks is one thing that gives you predefined components of the UI. You can learn from that, and basically Copilot, it also gives a lot of examples. So try to get your hand dirty in the UI development. API is the secondary thing that you also need to understand. That first is when you have something ready, how to create my model classes and how to structure my project and how to make an API call, how to serialize and deserialize data. These are the basic things. When you overcome those small things, you find yourself in a good position to talk. Okay, when somebody tell you a problem, you will understand the crux, and even if you don't understand entire thing, you will have an understanding, have a discussion. I mean, we don't expect you to understand when you are having like 1 year or 6 months of experience. We don't expect to know everything, but when you know these fundamentals, we can talk. Otherwise, nobody gonna teach you these things when you are in a job. DB integration, Firebase, Serverpod, SQLite. Try with these things. SQLite will help you very much if you are not going to that direction. This is something I think absolute necessary for any app that store local data. Go for that. It's not very hard if you did any SQL things. State management. I mentioned GetX because this is the easiest state management thing. I did that. But yeah, and the transition is provider and then the river pod. You are already there, so no worries. And there are many more other things. I have not mentioned everything, but this is basically to give you a good foundation. Okay, now I know these things, I can go to the war. Guys, start learning, and this is the future. Thank you. Thank you very much, appreciate and welcome. And B3, we are looking for Android developers and iOS developers and yes, Flutter developers. And if you need more info, please talk to Camilla here. See you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your microphone.
Absolute.
Thank you. So that's today's meetup, but we still have a little bit of time. We can hang out here and get to know each other. If you want to help out with the meetup, or if you want to give a talk here, so next spring, next meetup will most likely be in January. Come talk with me or that happen.